Hello, everyone. This is Joseph Simpson, and I wanted to talk a little bit about a new project that I'm starting. It's kind of a new project rebuilding an old project. So I wrote an article about it this morning. I'm not going to read through the entire article for this video because I'm guessing if you're watching the video, you're not going to read the article anyway. But essentially, I've got this little FileMaker app that I have a list of activities, and I tap on one, and I can use a very simple screen to increment time for those activities for that day. So I call this time list tracking. Basically, I don't like entering time in and time out. I think they're really fussy on mobile devices. I've never seen a good clock control that I like. I also don't like timers running and stressing while I'm working, and I don't bill by the hour. So this data is really only for me. This is kind of ballpark data. I know I spent 2 hours on this project and an hour and a half on that, just things like that. So this is kind of big slices of time, and I built this I think 4 or 5 years ago, initially as an iOS app prototype, and then rebuilt it in FileMaker when I decided not to make the iOS app. And I've been using it ever since, but my current implementation is really, really sloppy. So I thought it would be fun to kind of rebuild it, and along the way, to kind of revisit a lot of my assumptions about FileMaker development. Most of the time when I'm doing FileMaker development, I'm using a template that I've been using for years, and while I try to keep that updated with the latest stuff, um, it's I think it's good to kind of revisit my assumptions around that stuff. Um, so I'm going to start with a totally blank file and just kind of go from there. I'm going to go through the process of planning out the schema. Where possible, I'm going to keep the app as simple and user accessible as possible. So anybody should be able to just grab a copy and modify it and use it. So I'm going to try to avoid monolithic, complex systems and things like that, and just try to build it as kind of native FileMaker as possible. But I am going to also use other fun stuff with it, like I'm going to build some JavaScript widgets. But if I build those widgets, they're going to be easy to understand, easy to modify. They're not going to be huge, complex apps in and of themselves. Um, so that's the idea. So today, I wrote this little introductory post, and if you want to follow the project, there's a couple of ways to do that. So I'm going to do all of the project management for this and all the kind of the meta work around this project in Notion. So there's a public Notion page linked at the end of the blog post, and I'll also link it in the video description. Um, I've got three spots in this workspace: ideas, a project board, and a project journal. There's links to various ways to follow the project. You can follow my website directly. Just add the RSS feed to your feed reader if you want to get the articles. You can follow me on LinkedIn or Twitter. You can also get the latest copy of the file from GitHub. Most of the meat for the project will be on the project board. So you can see what I'm doing here, and I'll probably add some additional views here to kind of make this into a timeline view or calendar view. But when I'm actually working on it, I'll be using the board view to create tasks and check stuff off as I go. So that's just a quick overview of the project. So with that out of the way, I'm going to also just do a quick recap of today. So I've got a project journal, and here's a day one recap. Really, really basic stuff. I linked all of the tasks from the project board that I did today. It really just talked about setting up the project itself, the Notion board, writing the blog post, doing some graphics in uh, Adobe Express, making a logo, stuff like that. And then the FileMaker work itself was pretty minimal today because I spent most of my work kind of setting up the project stuff. But I did create a new file, kind of uh, configured the file options. I set the version to 19.4. I was going to do 19.6, but I realized I haven't updated my development server yet, so I'm too lazy to do that today. So I'm targeting 19.4 as the uh, minimum version. I've also set up uh, a admin accounts called Timeless. The password is listed on the GitHub repo if you want to grab a copy and access the file. I hosted the file on my development server, and That's about it. There's really nothing there yet. So next up, over the next couple of days, I'll be designing the schema and figuring out exactly how I'm going to structure the data. It's not a very complicated project. I could probably do it in two tables, but there's some other features that I want to sprinkle in later on. So I want to at least kind of document my intentions behind the schema before I start building stuff. So yeah, that's it for kind of my introduction to Timeless and my recap of day one. Let me know if you like the idea of these videos or would just prefer written content or what works for you. Thanks for watching.